Okay, on the bench today, again, Fender Champ from the 70s, silver face. You guys may recall this one. I've actually had this one on the bench before. And it had burned this resistor in the past. And also this resistor was pretty crispy, I believe, also maybe burnt. But anyway, yeah, if you'll probably recall from another video I did this, so that you can look in the description for a link to that other video, or I'll post it here somewhere, and you can click on that if you want to watch that one first. But I got this one back. The customer said, and if you'll recall, the output on this transformer was a little bit higher than I was comfortable with, and he said he saw some arcing in the tube, the output tube. And let's see, this thing's a Hammond, and I don't remember offhand if I put this in there or not. I don't think I did, because this has got some markings from someone else. So I don't think I did this. But so I can smell some burning, essentially. Fired it up, brought it up slowly on the variac. Everything seemed fine for a minute, and then it completely just kind of stopped working. So I switched everything off really quickly, looked in here, and it's kind of started sniffing around, and you could smell some burning. It smelled like it was maybe coming from the transformer, but also it smelled like it was coming from this power tube socket. And I pulled the power tube out, and I can smell the power tube. I don't see any obvious signs of arcing on the bottom or anything, but I can actually smell as if this thing has had some burning or something going on, some arcing internally or something like that. So this is probably a bad tube. I don't have a tester right now, so I can't test it, but I'm going to assume that's probably a bad tube. I'll pop in a new one. The problem I think that's going on with this is I checked the fuse, and lo and behold, this damn thing had a 3 amp fuse in there, and it calls for a 1 amp fuse. So, you know, I'm kind of kicking myself and blaming myself at the moment, because I've had this amp on the bench before, and if I didn't check that, then that was my fault, because I usually try to check those as I have them, and if I neglected to do that, that's something on me, and I should have done that. But never, 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 never put a fuse in your amp that's larger than the value that it calls for, because what ends up happening is, instead of the fuse burning up, and you know, us replacing a 50-cent fuse, we may end up having to replace this transformer if it took out the transformer. I'm hoping and praying that I can slap a new tube in here, and this transformer will come back up, and everything will be okay. If not, we may have burned the transformer between him running it and me running it here on the bench. Between those two things, it could have just finally kicked the bucket just now on this bench. So, and it was probably because of a 3 amp fuse. None of the windings in this transformer are rated for 3 amps, so they're going to burn up before that 3 amp fuse does, and that's where you get the problem. If it had the 1 amp in there, it may not have happened. So fingers crossed. Let's pop a tube in this and see if we can revive it. Alright, moment of truth here. Got it hooked up to the variac. We're going to bring it up slowly. I'm actually going to test some voltages here as well. Let's see what we're getting on the secondary main. We're coming up. I got a little bit of noise. Let's see. Yeah, but that's only 6.3 volts right there at that point. It should be way higher than that right now. I mean, that's the main part of the secondary right there off the rectifier, and I'm only getting 6.0 volts. Jeez. See, check that out though. That's not really good. This could also be a matter of just a bad socket, or is this another bad 6v6? It could possibly be a bad socket. Yeah, hear all that junk? We've bumped up, well, the good news is we've bumped up to 127, 29 volts DC. That's the good news. Before I go any further on this, though, I want to, oh, that, something happened there and bumped back down. Before we go any further on this, I want to change 6v6s just to make sure we don't have another bad 6v6. I've got another 6v6, but before I do that, I want to look at the socket here and clean it too. I'm going to clean each one of these pins just to make sure they're not part of the problem. I mean, the socket, other than, I don't know, the socket looks alright. It's got a little bit of rust along the outside, the little collar. Other than that, I mean, I don't see any obvious signs of arcing whatsoever. Usually if there's a big problem with arcing, you'd see some burnt traces on it. It could very well be that one of these pins wasn't really seating right or getting good connection. Sometimes when that happens, I like to unseat, unplug, and plug back in these tubes a couple times. Sometimes the pins on these, if it's an older tube too, will have some corrosion or some patina kind of on there, and sort of scraping that stuff away, washing it away helps. Let's see if I can just brush some of that stuff off. This isn't a brand new tube I'm going to use for testing here. So give the pins a little bit of a clean. Okay. Let's try it again. All right. Let's get our voltmeter set up. Okay, got this up to 243 volts on the secondary coming off of the rectifier. I'm dialing it up slowly still, but we do have life, so the transformer's not completely dead. It may have heated up a bit, but it didn't die on us, at least not yet. A lot of times when they do that, though, it may eventually die later. You know, it'll have a straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak. But at least at the moment, we've got stable voltage. I'm going to dial it on up and I guess just hope for the best. I've got it, let's see, it's turned way up. I'll dial up slowly here. Just see how things kind of go. The popping is gone. It's not doing that. Hopefully it was just a bad tube. And a dirty socket. Let's see, we're about 350 volts almost here. I don't know if you can see that or not. There you go. Okay, that'll be about 120 on the input, and we're at 422 volts on the secondary. Still no popping. I'm going to check this out over the course of the next half hour to an hour and just make sure it doesn't start that popping and arcing and stuff again. I think we just had a bad, a dirty socket maybe, and that led to a bad tube. And then because we had a large fuse, it almost took out our power transformer. So I think that's the status on this thing, and we'll look at it over the course of the next hour or so. But if it doesn't do anything else, I think we may have solved the problem. Okay, we're just going to check the bias on this output tube. Right now we're measuring plate voltage is 392 volts on the plate, so actually that's not nearly as bad as I remembered it being. It might have actually been had something to do with this tube that was bad or going bad. So that might have been part of the problem all along. I plugged this thing back in for giggles. I've had this amp on for a little while now and turned it off and plugged this back in momentarily to see what it would do, and it was I couldn't get any sound out of it. This thing is dead, so that's a bad tube for sure. I'll send that back with the customer, but that was definitely the culprit. Bad tube, and I don't know if the dirty socket contributed to that or not. It very well may have. It might have had nothing to do with it. I don't know. We're just lucky that they didn't take out the transformer. So we have 396, 97, 96, we'll say 396 volts on the plate. So we'll write that down. We have a voltage drop of negative 33, well, negative. It's actually 33.3. So we'll write that down. 33.3 volts drop across, and that's across the bias resistors. And so we'll mark that down. Okay, so now we've turned the amp off, we've drained the filter capacitors, and we're measuring the actual resistance of the bias resistors that we have here in series, and it's 1.34K. 1.34K. And we'll take note of that. Okay, so we'll take our voltage drop of 33.3. We'll divide that by 1,349 ohms, and we'll multiply that. And actually, this will give us our cathode current, and multiply that by 396, and we're dissipating 9.77 watts, which is pretty good for a 6v6. The maximum recommendation is 12 on these. Around 10 is pretty good, actually. So we're real safe on this. We could actually turn it up some and get a little more headroom out of it, but I don't think it's going to give us a whole lot. And this is probably safest anyway, just to keep it at about 10 watts. So I think we're where we need to be on this. I'm going to button it up, give the customer some notice here that he's kind of in luck. All it was a bad tube.